Pokémon Sword and Pokémon Shield received their fair share of controversy ever since it was announced at E3 that not every Pokémon would make their trip to Galar. Personally, this was never an issue for me as I always prefer playing with the brand new Pokémon. However, this is worth noting if you need to play your Pokémon games with a certain species, as there is a chance that that specific Pokémon won't be available. If this is an important factor for you, you might want to check the full Dex list before you invest in Sword and Shield. As for me, I won't talk about this issue any longer besides saying that I fully expect the full Dex to be their main selling point feature for the possible third version next year. I am very glad to return to a full Pokémon game. I enjoyed Let's Go last year for what they were, but this style of gameplay is what I prefer. They did remove random encounters from the series, which was the one feature from Let's Go I enjoyed the most. However, shiny Pokémon no longer appear in the overworld, but instead you need to trigger the battle to see them. Also, breeding is back and it's more fun and easy to use than ever. Breeding always adds hundreds of hours to a Pokémon game for me, and it's something I really missed in Let's Go. The visuals are a mixed bag. After playing Dragon Quest XI previously on my Switch, my original thoughts was that the game looked like a high-res 3DS game and it threw me off. After a while, I got used to them and found them enjoyable and pleasant. It felt like a retro Pokémon look with HD visuals. However, I do wish that more details would have gone in some parts of the game, like the ground you walk on and the trees. The visuals work, but the Pokémon company should have the means and the money to create a much better looking game than this. The storyline of Pokémon Sword and Shield showed a lot of promise, but ultimately fell flat at the end. There are two scenes near the end of the game that I found really epic and got the Pokémon fanboy in me real excited. But compared to Sun and Moon and even Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, where you had multiple developed characters and a clear storyline with a nice plot twist, Sword and Shield was just a means to an end. Most of the story development happens off-screen. Many of the troubling developments are solved by Leon the Champion without your assistance. And the bad guy reveal at the end was weak. His reasonings were questionable even by Pokémon standards, and the game failed to answer most of the questions it had set up. If you're craving a good storyline from an RPG, this is probably one of the weaker Pokémon offerings. The very best feature of Pokémon Sword and Shield is the wild area. The wild area is a large map that features many different Pokémon for you to catch and different items to acquire. The more badges you collect, the higher level of Pokémon you encounter and capture. That alone is highly addictive, but what really sold me on this are the max raid battles. Pokémon finally has a full-fledged co-op mode where you get to face various Pokémon ranked from 1 to 5 stars. These Pokémon are all Dynamaxed and are a blast to take on with friends. It's gonna be interesting to see if Game Freak fully capitalizes on this feature in the coming months, as they have the opportunity here to add exclusives and new Pokémon, even new Gigantamax forms, to keep you coming back to the game and playing more. There's never really been added content to a Pokémon game before, and this could keep you playing for months. I also need to talk about the new Dynamax feature. Ever since Gen 6 has added something new to the battle mechanic. X and Y had Mega Evolutions, Sun and Moon had Z moves, and now we have Dynamaxing. Dynamaxing takes a huge center role in the main story, and I love the fact that it was available from the get-go. Gyms make a comeback in this game, and right from the first one, your Pokémon have the ability to Dynamax. Dynamax basically turns your Pokémon into a giant for 3 turns, boosts your stats, and transform your moves into more powerful versions of themselves. It's a fun feature for the single-player adventure. I really enjoyed it there and in max raid battles. However, I'm not a huge fan of it in competitive play. I didn't care much for Z moves, but at least those were limited to 1 turn. Dynamax for me is overpowered and adds too much randomness and chaos to competitive play. But that's just my opinion, and I'm sure many will enjoy the addition. I do find it regrettable that Mega Evolution is gone, however, as that was one of the best additions to the franchise. A lot of nifty little things have been added to make breeding and raising competitive Pokémon easier. The ability to change natures, having no caps on EV raising vitamins, and not needing scales to remember moves are awesome. I even like the fact that traded Pokémon with no nicknames can now get a brand new name once. It's all fantastic. However, Game Freak decided to add a stupid unnecessary 20-minute time limit to online battles for absolutely no reason. It's frustrating as this is something that probably won't be changed, as Game Freak typically feel they know what we want or need better than we do. A good 6v6 online battle can last up to 45 minutes and nobody ever complained about that. The online features are leaps and bounds better than Let's Go, although not exactly where I would want them to be. The fact that you can be connected online and keep playing the game is great. No more Festival Plaza, for example. But it's still not as great as the PSS feature from Gen 6. I wish there was a way to directly challenge people or ask for a trade in-game rather than rely on other devices like online forums and smartphones. It's also harder than it needs to be to find random max rate battles, and then joining them often results in an error message. Again, I have been complaining about the online portions of Pokémon for a decade now. I don't expect this to change anytime soon. Pokémon Sword and Shield is one of my favorite releases of the year, and one that I will no doubt end up investing hundreds of hours into. But that's just me. Pokémon is my favorite series, and I could play a new Pokémon game with barely any new features every year and be fine with it. There are a ton of new additions from Sword and Shield that I really enjoyed, but I don't think this was Game Freak's best effort. I think in some way, this felt like a game made by a team tired of working on this franchise. I cannot wait to see what comes next for the franchise, but if you've been following my reviews since the early Nintendo DS days, it feels like the same complaints keep showing up and nothing ever really changes. I'm definitely part of the problem as I keep buying the games every year, and like I still enjoy them more than anything. But after playing a game like Dragon Quest XI, where you can tell the developers took their time and made one of the greatest Dragon Quest game they could make, I wish that someday someone would create the Pokémon equivalent of DQ11. I now doubt that day will ever come.